congregation of Erie. My name is Reverend Kristina Church, and I'll be leading the service today, and we will start with the ringing of the bells. So if you brought a bell or if you have something to make noise with, please unmute yourself and we will ring the bells to begin our service.
Okay.
Glad you're here. And now Tom Schlaudecker will perform our welcoming song.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we come to you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Whomever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Whomever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Thank you, Tom. And if anyone has forgotten to mute themselves, would you please mute yourself now just so we can limit background noise during our service? Thank you. Our opening words for this water ceremony today are from Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes from her book, Untie the Strong Woman. This poem is called The Rainmaker. You could be the water, for by the scent of water alone, the withered vine comes back to life. And thus, wherever the land is dry and hard, you could be the water. Or you could be the iron blade, disking the earth open, or you could be the acequia, the mother ditch, carrying the water from the river to the fields to grow the flowers for the farmers. Or you could be the honest engineer, mapping the dams that must be taken down and those dams which could remain to serve the venerable all, instead of only the very few. You could be the battered vessel that's made for carrying water by hand. Or you could be the one who stores the water. You could be the one who protects the water. Or the one who blesses it, or the one who pours it. Or you could be the tired ground that receives it. Or you could be the scorched seed that drinks it in. Or you could be the vine, green growing over land in all your wild audacity. And now we will hear a beautiful prelude from Jackson Froman, our musician.
Kristina, you're muted.
Oh, whoops, I was muted. Sorry about that. And next, is there a slide for? Next, we will light our chalice together. So I invite you to light a candle or light a chalice if you have one at home. As we celebrate water today, we light our chalice like a candle on the water, a beacon of faith in a sea of troubles, ever calling us to be our best selves, even as we ride these waves of loneliness, doubt, fear, and injustice. This symbol of our faith and the community it represents can carry us over turbulence when we are lost at sea, bringing us home to love, to community, and to connection once again. And now we will have our children's bond of union.
I will lead that. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of the open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands.
Thank you. And now we will recite our 1898 Bond of Union. I invite you to recite it with me. We unite ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, believing that we may thereby prove helpful to one another and promote the cause of truth, righteousness, and love in the world. And now we will have a time for all ages. And since it's a time for all ages, it's not just a time for kids. So I invite you to listen, and if you've got a glass of water with you, this particular time for all ages, you'll really want one, I think, to drink from and to enjoy. So I wanted to talk a little bit about water and how important it is in our lives. And when I think about water, I think about one of my favorite books that I have read to my son over and over again. It's called The Search for Delicious by Natalie Babbitt. And there are a lot of different ways that the book talks about water. One of them is that there's a beautiful mermaid in a pool. And so there's beautiful water imagery throughout. But the story is about a kingdom that the king has ordered his chief counselor to create a dictionary using similes and metaphors for the definitions of the words. And everything is going along fine until they get to the word delicious. And they all start arguing about what delicious is and what is really the most delicious thing that embodies the word delicious. And the queen thinks that it's a cheesecake, and the king thinks that it's fried fish, and somebody else thinks it's an apple. And so they end up having a war, and lots of things happen, and as a result of the actions of the war, the kingdom dries up, and all the streams in the mountains that feed their rivers dry up and are no longer available to the kingdom, and everyone is terribly thirsty and the land is terribly parched. And I hope that I won't spoil the story for you if I tell you that in the end, they decide that delicious is a drink of cool water when you are very, very thirsty. And that is how the story ends. Their story has a happy ending. As you know, our world also depends upon water. And the glaciers in the mountains also feed the mountain streams that we drink from and bathe from and water our crops from. And our world is in trouble because those sources of water are drying up. There's a beautiful writing by Reverend Mike Johnson that talks about how all water is connected, and I want to finish our time for all ages with that. Reverend Johnson says, all life comes from water, and all needs water to survive. Water moves through our ecosystem, nurturing and transforming life as it moves. It rises from the oceans in evaporation, forming clouds in the sky, and blown about by the winds, it returns to the land in the form of rain and snow. The precipitation falls right into the soil, and it gathers again in streams and in aquifers. That's just a fancy word for a stream or a river. In the midst of this journey, it also travels through the bodies of every living thing, including our bodies. Every body needs water. Insects, birds, mammals, fish, and yes, humans. Water also rises up into the stems of plants and into the trunks of trees. But none of that water is isolated from the rest. Even our own bodies are part of the watershed. So the water goes back to the air or the earth, and it continues in the streams and in the rivers on its way to the mighty ocean. And this cycle keeps going around and around. So I hope as we drink our water today and as we enjoy our water ceremony, we'll think about the ways that we're all connected through our dependency on water, and we'll vow in our hearts to be water keepers, to be water protectors, to be those who help the cycle continue for a long time to come. Thanks for listening. And Jackson, do you have a piece that you're going to play for us now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. What a beautiful background. It's perfect. Well, yesterday was my ordination, so you can all call me Reverend Kristina now, and I won't have that funny look in my eyes that says, oh, is that okay that they're calling me Reverend Kristina? Because it's official now. And I had chosen an outdoor setting with a very small group of people to do the ritual of ordination so that we could hold it in person. And the weather report had promised me a very beautiful sunny day right up until about Thursday, after which things got very murky with the forecast, and I began to ride the waves of worry and dread. Was it going to rain? Was it going to be nice and sunny for a good film of the ordination? Well, by the time everyone arrived at the site and we were set up to film it, tiny droplets of water began landing on the video camera and on my robe and on the chalice that I'd set up to light in the garden. Eventually, it was decided that we should move the event indoors, even though it meant more stringent social distancing would be required. And it wasn't until later, when I returned home, that I thought about how odd it is, how ironic and weird it was that that very next day, today, we'd all be sitting here in our indoor spaces, worshiping with whatever UU congregation we called home, and extolling the sacredness of water. Yet we didn't want any of it to touch our heads or our clothing or, heaven forbid, our electronic equipment. Well, humans are funny that way. When these beads of the stuff that we say is sacred, the stuff that represents life itself, the interconnectedness of all beings on our planet, appear in the sky, we do our best to get away from it, don't we? So we had the indoor ceremony, but then later, my friend Margalie and I ventured into the park nearby, where we let the droplets fall on us, and we felt them cool and soft on our faces, on our heads, on our arms. It felt like a blessing. And then I took her to see a little lake in the park that I live near. A lake which I share with thousands of other people, but which I think of as my lake. Now, Margalie has seen lakes before, of course, and there's nothing particularly special about this one. But we both stood there just looking at the lake, and I thought how I needed her to know it. I needed her to be introduced to my lake, just as I would introduce her to any other friend. As this story suggests, our relationship with water is much more complicated than just benign friendship. Nonetheless, like those of us who dodge the raindrops, we only want the blessing of water in the way that we want it, in the ways that we can control. The river safely inside its boundaries, the water running through the pipes in the correct way, and into the disposable plastic cup. But the trouble with water is that it can't be controlled. And the bigger the body and the more of it there is, the more of a mess it really makes. Anyone who has ever had a basement flood knows this basic fact of living. So why then do we say that water is beautiful, that water is sacred, water is life? When we say that, we forget that water is also fearsome. Water is awe-inspiring. Water, in some states and in some forms, is just plain irritating as hell. It's a damned inconvenience. And that water, sometimes and in some places, means death. Tsunamis, hurricanes, floods, and even swimming pools all represent ways that humans have interacted with water that can be fatal. So then, water. This water that we revere and adore can also kill us in its most powerful configurations. What do we do with all of that? I could talk for an hour and never find the right words to express what water means to a people dependent on it, wedded to it, in love with it. Water is life. Water is everything. And its protean nature means that it can be anything, anywhere, everywhere. Like God. It's a concept that is beautiful and terrifying and powerful and delicious. And there is no word to capture its centrality in our lives. So when words fail, we must turn to music. So now let's sing hymn number 100. I've got peace like a river. The words will be found on your screen.
I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I got joy like a fountain. I got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got a love like an ocean. I've got a love like an ocean. I've got a love like an ocean in my soul. I've got a love like an ocean. I've got a love like an ocean. I've got a love like an ocean in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul.
Water is all of these things. Water is joy like a fountain. Water is tears like the raindrops. Water is peace like a river. Water is love like an ocean. And water can cause pain like an arrow. This year, the extended metaphor for me has been riding the waves. Whenever somebody asks me how I'm doing, I say, well, I'm riding the waves. And what that means is I'm surfing an endless onslaught of big ones, with no time to catch my breath between breakers. We all have some kind of metaphor like that this year, don't we? We're all wishing for solid ground again. Most of us not finding it, going back under, and then standing up and doing it all again, as well as we can, for as long as we can. And I say this as someone who's been relatively safe, relatively well, relatively secure throughout the entire span of 2020. I can only imagine the terror of riding those waves for those who are immunocompromised, for those who've lost their livelihoods, or for those whose lives were already on the margin of despair. And yet, I realized something else as I wrote this sermon. That paradoxically, the cure, or at least a path to respite, for the waves of emotion hitting us because of the state of our world, or the waves of disease sweeping across our country, for me anyway, that respite has been most evident when I've been near water. And really any kind of water. Even a kiddie pool will do in a pinch. Even a sprinkle of raindrops, when I lift my face to receive them, can feel like a blessing from the earth. In fact, every single time that I can remember when I've gotten myself near water this year, I've automatically felt better. As I thought about this, in a funny kind of synchronicity, as I was driving home from my ordination, listening to NPR, Rick Steves came on to promote his travel show. Right there on the radio, I learned, right there, right then, I learned that just being around water can actually change our brainwaves. Now, I am no neurologist, but my life experiences confirm the truth of this. And science researcher Wallace J. Nichols is here to tell you that our affinity from water can produce a condition that can actually be seen on brain imagery devices called blue mind. It's a mildly meditative state characterized by calm, by peacefulness, unity, and a sense of general happiness and satisfaction with life in the moment. Now that sounds to me like the peace of a river and the joy of a fountain expressed in scientific terms. Now, this state of blue mind can be induced by water, but also by elements associated with water, like the color blue, and even the words that we use to describe the sensations we experience when we're in water. This blue mind state takes advantage of neurological connections that we have formed over millennia of living on this blue planet. Now, our traditional ingathering features all of us bringing water back from somewhere that we've been over the summer, some experience that we've had that we want to share as we join together again as a congregation. Over the years, I've provided water from my parents' house in Boise, Idaho, water from my trip to Transylvania as a seminarian, and of course, water from Lake Erie. But the most meaningful water I ever brought was water from our little inflatable pool in my backyard, where my family spent most of that summer just splashing around and enjoying each other's company. This year, we couldn't do our traditional water ceremony and in gathering because of the virus. And so we had to get creative. And I asked you to send me some pictures or a video or some words about how water is life-giving for you. And I have to say, you sent me the most beautiful, the most inspiring, life-giving images and words. My husband, Greg, put them together in a video montage, and we're going to watch it together in just a few minutes. After I watched this video montage a couple of times, I realized something. It's not just that our bodies are made mostly of water. It's not just that water is the compound that makes life possible on our planet. It's not just that we need daily infusions of this stuff to keep us alive. No, what I saw in your pictures was joy. The sheer joy of being a part of this watershed called planet Earth. The way that sunlight sparkles on water, the way droplets dance through our daily lives, in our encounters with water creatures that share these communities with us, in our relationships with the plants that give us life, the way water turns any gathering into magic, the way a walk beside even the smallest body of water, a pond, a reflecting pool, even a bird bath, seems to pull us out of ourselves, returning our misshapen psychic energies into a sense of flow and of oneness with all of life. And that wholeness is the aspect of water that we need to celebrate right now. And that's what your pictures and your videos and your images did for me. I hope it will do the same for you. And now let's watch the video. This year, as we continue to ride the waves of this pandemic, let's try and remember that peace like a river and joy like a fountain are available to us anywhere, anytime. Blue Mind can give us both if only we will allow the naturally healing qualities of water to accompany us like an old friend. When raindrops fall like tears onto our heads, let's try to remember that water is a blessing. Let's respond with gratitude for the water cycle that allows our planet to teem with life. Let's protect that cycle from those who would take it or trash it or deplete it. And let's work to make sure that all people everywhere have access to the necessity of clean water. Let's do our best for the lake and the shoreline and the blue planet that we love. And let's allow the sacred connections among us, symbolized by the connectedness of water, to grow and increase, blessing all of our boats and bringing us joy, like sunlight sparkling on water. And now is the time in our service for quiet meditation. And Jackson will play a piece that was written by Jan Woods, especially for water communion. And we will have silence, and you are also invited to share any joys and concerns that are on your heart today in the chat box. As we enter into this quiet time, let us remember the words of Margaret Silf, who said that a river is always part of a greater cycle, and our prayer and our hope too is always part of a greater conversation. It is a single note in a great symphony. The river remembers your story and my story and all of our stories, and carries their treasure with it to its destiny in the ocean of God's love. And even as it flows, it calls us to be where we are and who we are in the only moment we have, the eternal present moment. It was wonderful to see what's on your heart today. There were lots of expressions of joy, of connecting with family, times of being able to be together after a long separation, feelings of hope and joy. So it's wonderful to begin our congregational year on such an optimistic and happy note. Thank you. And now is the time when we extinguish our chalice. So if you've lit one today, I invite you to extinguish it, and we will extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth or the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we will carry in our hearts until we are together again. And the closing words for our service are by poet Lucille Clifton. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding, carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. Now Jackson will play us out.
You know what, you guys, I'm going to do, I'm going for it again. I was going to do take 5, but I've done it for you guys before. So I'm just going to I wrote this right before the pandemic, and it's just kind of kind of want to reflect on some of that pre-pandemic time. And I performed a piece that I wrote last week, and so I'll do another one here. And you can find these songs on I have like a YouTube channel. It's kind of hard to find, so if you want to find it, give me a holler or something. But here you go. This is called "Awake in Somebody Else's Dream." I'm awake in someone else's dream tonight, I know. I hope it's yours, I hope it's nice, 'cause I can't sleep a wink tonight. You can search for me in other guys and never find no one like me that holds your dreams and holds your love inside their mind. I'm glad you didn't give me a cold kiss, 'cause that's not right. But I hold on to the hope that you'll be dreaming of my lips tonight. I never knew how intertwined I was with you until I left, until I cried. I hope you dream of me tonight. When I get to hold you, I hope the stars come out at night. All the things that I told you, I hope that someday you will see I'm right. I'm awake in someone else's dream tonight, I know. I hope it's yours, I hope it's nice, 'cause I can't sleep a wink tonight.
Thank you, Jackson. And now we need to ask if there are folks who need to make announcements. I know that, let's see, Mary Desmond is going to make an announcement about UU the Vote.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary.
I wanted to mention that in the weekend news, Greg Blackman put a wonderful list of things to do related to UU the Vote. And I had commented that I would be the contact person for the deep canvassing. And the link I gave you would take you to Erie County United and PA United, and you would have this training. But the link I gave you was training that is partisan, not nonpartisan. And the UU the Vote is to be nonpartisan. So while the training is wonderful, and it is wonderful to take it, and you can participate in it, you can't participate in it as a UU the Vote activity. In a couple of weeks, UU the Vote will have their nonpartisan training will begin, and I will keep you posted when that nonpartisan piece starts. If you want to do partisan work, the link that's in the newsletter is great, and it is a non-judgmental approach, even though it's partisan. It's quite lovely, but I just wanted to clarify that in case you were interested in that. And I'll let you know when the official nonpartisan training is going to happen. Thank you.
Kristina, you're muted.
Our Erie Gives Day, Lee, are you there? Did you want to share about that, or?
Just what I wrote. We'll have more comprehensive information coming, but our match from Erie Gives Day was $3,003. So those were our earnings from our little over $42,000 that we gave on that day.
Wonderful, thank you. And we also have a video with an announcement to share with the congregation, so we'll play that now.
Hello, this is Julie McGuire, the President of the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Erie. I'm making this announcement from our beautiful sanctuary, where we would love to be gathering for this, our water communion and in-gathering service. I am here to share with you a new addition to our religious home, a plaque dedicating the sound room to honor our previous president, expert sound technician, and all-around good guy, Doug Russell. When we return to our building, this room will be known as the Russell Room. We love you, Doug.
Thank you so much. Are there any other announcements that people have? All right, I think we're ready for breakout rooms to happen then.